I want to tell you something before this story starts. In 4 hours, my boss is going to stand in front of a boardroom full of executives and present 3 years of my work as his own. He is going to call it a proprietary framework. He is going to take questions about methodology he doesn't understand. He is going to accept applause for a model I built on a Tuesday night in November, alone, while my family was at a party I wasn't invited to. And I am going to sit at my cubicle and listen to it happen through a conference line. Because that's what I've always done. I fix things quietly. I wait patiently. I tell myself, next time, next cycle, you just have to wait a little longer. But here is what nobody tells you about being the quiet one, about being the reliable one, about being the one who never makes a fuss, never asks for too much, never stops showing up. They will take everything you give, and then they will come back for more. At work, at home, in every room where your silence gets mistaken for permission. This is the story of the day I stopped being quiet. My name is Diana Reeves. I am 34 years old. I am a senior market analyst, a daughter, a sister, and, for 7 years, 2 months, and 11 days, the most invisible, valuable person in every room I walked into. By the time this story ends, I will have filed a legal claim against one of the most powerful investment firms on the Eastern Seaboard. I will have frozen my credit, resigned my position, moved to a city I chose for myself for the first time in my adult life, and recovered $148,000 that was quietly taken from me, $1 at a time, a credit at a time, a year at a time. I will also have lost people I loved. And I will have found people worth keeping. Stay with me. Because if you have ever worked twice as hard as the person next to you and watched them get the promotion, if you have ever given money to someone who called it a loan and both of you knew it wasn't, if you have ever sat at a table full of people who needed something from you and felt completely, utterly alone, this story is for you. Let's go back to the beginning. The coffee is cold again. I don't notice until I've already swallowed half the mug. That's how my mornings work now, on autopilot, moving so fast I don't feel anything until it's already gone cold. 5:47 a.m. The city outside my window is still dark. My laptop glows on the kitchen table, the quarterly presentation open, the one I've been building for 11 days. 43 slides, 6 data models, 312 hours of work stretched across 11 months of this fiscal year, all distilled into something my boss, Director Marcus Webb, will present to the board in 4 hours. Present. Not me. Him. My name appears exactly once in those 43 slides. In the acknowledgement section, slide 42, the one nobody reads. I reach for my phone. 3 texts from Mom, all sent after midnight. I set the phone face down without reading them. I already know what they say. I already know the number attached to them. I hold a master's degree in financial analysis that I earned in night school, 3 hours every Tuesday and Thursday for 4 years, while working full days at this same firm. I have never once been late, never missed a deadline, never left before the work was done, even when the work meant staying until the building was dark and the security guard started doing his final rounds. I have also never been promoted. I slide into my blazer, the navy one I bought on clearance because I gave Mom $300 last month for what she called an emergency, which I later discovered was a deposit on a vacation rental she and my sister Brielle used over Labor Day weekend. They posted pictures on Facebook. I wasn't invited. I was working. The commute takes 40 minutes. I use every one of them reviewing my slides on my phone, catching 2 typos Marcus would never have found, correcting them through the company portal before he even wakes up. That's what I do. I fix things. Quietly. Before anyone notices they were broken. I have been fixing things quietly for so long, I think people have forgotten I'm the one doing it. The elevator opens onto the 14th floor at 7:03 a.m. The office is mostly empty. I like it this way. These 2 hours before the noise starts are mine, the only uninterrupted thinking time I have. I pass the wall of framed magazine covers near the reception area. Crestline Capital Group, 10 years of industry leadership. The faces in those frames are all familiar. Director Marcus Webb is in 3 of them. His mentor, Senior Vice President Richard Holt, is in 5. COO Patricia Vance, twice, each of them photographed mid-laugh, mid-handshake, mid-triumph. None of the analyses behind those triumphs carry my name, but I built most of them. My cubicle is in the middle of the floor, no window, no door, just 4 fabric walls covered in sticky notes, color-coded by project and deadline. My colleagues jokingly call it mission control. I've never found it funny. I open my laptop. The quarterly report is finalized, formatted, submitted. I pour myself fresh coffee from the break room and sit down to begin the post-analysis documentation. The behind-the-scenes record nobody asks for, but everyone eventually needs when things go wrong. I started doing this 3 years ago, after a project I built got misattributed to a colleague named Trevor, who had joined the team 4 months earlier and contributed exactly 1 pie chart. When the attribution error came up in a meeting, my manager at the time, Janet Flores, looked at Trevor and said, "Can you walk us through your methodology?" Trevor said, "Sure." He had no methodology, but he had confidence, a firm handshake, and a golf handicap he'd mentioned to Marcus twice. I started documenting everything after that. Date stamped, version controlled, backed up in 3 places, evidence, just in case. Mom calls at 8:22 a.m. I let it ring twice, then pick up, because I always pick up, because somewhere in me lives a daughter who cannot stop hoping this time will be different. "Diana, honey, I'm so glad I caught you." She always says that. Like catching me requires effort, like I am something that moves too fast to be held. "I'm at work, Mom." I know. This will only take a second. A pause. The kind of pause I've learned to recognize. The pause before the number. Brielle's car. You know how she's been having trouble with it. The transmission finally went. "The repair shop is saying $4,800, Diana. We just don't have it right now. $4,800. The same amount I've been saving toward the certification program I've been trying to complete for 2 years. The Chartered Financial Analyst designation that would finally give me the credential to match the work I've already been doing for a decade. Mom, you're so good with money, sweetheart. You've always been the responsible one. Brielle needs her car for work, you understand. She can't lose her job. Brielle is 31. Brielle has worked at her current salon for 8 months, which is the longest she has stayed anywhere in 4 years. Brielle's Instagram, which I am still following despite everything, shows her weekend in the Hamptons 2 weeks ago. The one she and Mom took. The one I wasn't invited to because I was working on the quarterly report that Marcus Webb will present to the board in 3 hours. I tell Mom I'll think about it. I hang up and stare at my screen. My college roommate Keisha had mentioned a financial attorney once, back when I admitted, vaguely, carefully, that things at home felt complicated. I'd filed the name away. One of those things responsible people keep just in case. I hadn't called. Not yet. I stare at my coffee. It's cold again. The boardroom fills at 10:55 a.m. I watch through the glass wall from my cubicle as the executives settle in, 7 of them, suits pressed, laptops open, coffee in branded mugs. Marcus arrives last, as he always does, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing the blue tie I've noticed he saves for important meetings. He shakes hands around the table. SVP Richard Holt claps him on the shoulder. The presentation begins. I have the audio feed, technically a conference line for remote employees who need to dial in, but nobody ever turns it off during in-person meetings. 3 years ago, I discovered this accidentally while staying late one Thursday. I've listened every time since, not out of paranoia, out of professional responsibility, out of needing to understand where the work I build actually goes once it leaves my hands. Marcus's voice carries through my earbuds. As you can see from the regional growth modeling on slide 7, our proprietary projection framework identified 3 emerging market segments that competitors haven't touched yet. This is our competitive edge, gentlemen. This is the thinking that separates Crestline from the field. Proprietary projection framework. I built that framework. The foundation of it dates back 3 years. A modeling approach I developed quietly, tested across 2 fiscal cycles, and refined into the version Marcus is presenting today. I sent him the original prototype in a spreadsheet with a subject line that read, "New modeling approach. Looking for your feedback." He replied 4 days later, "Interesting. Let me sit with it." He sat with it for 3 years, Then he put it in a leather portfolio and called it ours. Richard Holt's voice. Marcus, this is excellent work. What's the timeline for implementation? Marcus. I'm thinking Q2. I've got the right people lined up to execute. The right people. I pull out one earbud and look at my screen. My documentation folder has 847 files in it. I open the oldest one, dated November 14th, 3 years ago, titled Regional Growth Framework V1.0, Diana Reeves. I scroll to the bottom where my signature and timestamp sit like a quiet witness that has been waiting a long time to be called. The boardroom applause leaks through my other earbud. I pull that one out too. The review happens at 2 p.m., the same afternoon as the board presentation. I've been waiting for this meeting for 6 months. My last formal evaluation was 18 months ago, a gap my HR contact Melissa explained as a scheduling oversight. Marcus sits across from me in the small conference room on the 14th floor. He has a folder. I have a folder. His contains a 2-page form. Mine contains 14 pages of documented contributions, completed projects, measurable outcomes, peer feedback, and a formal request for the director-level promotion I've been passed over for twice. Diana, first I want to say, great support work on the quarterly. Support work. The board responded really well to the direction we've been developing. Marcus, I'd like to discuss the promotion. I keep my voice even. Professionally warm. This is the 3rd cycle. I've exceeded every metric. I've documented. I know you have. He sighs. Not unkindly. That's the worst part. He doesn't do it with cruelty. He does it with the casual comfort of a man who has never had to fight for a seat at a table he was simply handed. The timing just isn't right, Diana. Budget constraints. Richard is being cautious with headcount costs. Trevor was promoted 6 months ago, I say. A pause. Trevor took on a different scope. Trevor's scope was built on my framework. I placed the documentation folder on the table. Quietly, without anger, just fact. I have everything dated and version controlled. Every model, every brief, every analysis that's carried someone else's name to a client or a boardroom in the last 3 years. I'm not asking for credit retroactively. I'm asking for a title and compensation that reflect what I already do every single day. Marcus looks at the folder. He doesn't open it. I hear you, Diana. Let me talk to Richard. He said that before. Twice. Both times, nothing happened. Both times I went back to my cubicle and kept working and told myself, next cycle, next time. You just have to wait a little longer. I pick up my folder. I stand. When should I expect to hear back? End of the month. I nod and walk out. In the elevator, I look at my reflection in the steel doors. I look tired. I look like someone who has been waiting for a long time. I look like someone who is about to stop waiting. I don't go back to my desk after the review. I take the stairs to the lobby, push through the revolving door, and just walk. No destination. No podcast in my ears. Just the city at 3 p.m. on a Thursday. Pigeons on a ledge, a hot dog cart trailing steam, 2 women laughing outside a dry cleaner, a child dragging a backpack along the sidewalk while his father talks on the phone. Normal life, still happening, all around me. I find a bench in a small pocket park 2 blocks from the office. I sit down. I watch a sparrow work the edge of a sandwich someone left on the next bench over. Methodical. Patient. Not asking anyone's permission. I sit there for 22 minutes. I don't cry. I don't make any decisions. I don't rehearse conversations or write scripts in my head. I just sit and let the weight of the day settle around me like sediment after a storm. A woman my age sits down at the far end of the bench with a coffee and opens a book. She doesn't look up. She doesn't notice me. She is just a person, reading, in the middle of her afternoon. I think, I cannot remember the last time I did something that looked like that. Something with no purpose other than the thing itself. I stand up, I straighten my blazer. I walk back to the office and spend 2 hours doing my job with the same quiet precision I always bring to it. Because I have not decided anything yet. But the sparrow is in my head. Patient. Methodical. Not asking anyone's permission. Not asking. Just taking. Saturday. Mom's house. The ritual I can never bring myself to cancel, even when everything in me wants to. The dining table holds Mom's famous baked ziti, garlic bread, the good dishes she only brings out when Brielle visits. Brielle is here with her boyfriend, Cody, who has never held a job for longer than a year and who once borrowed my car and returned it 3 days later with a cracked side mirror and zero explanation. "Diana, you look exhausted," Mom says as I sit down. "Not hello. Not how was your week. You look exhausted. Work's been intense. You work too hard." She says it with pride and pity tangled together. "Brielle, doesn't Diana look tired?" Brielle glances up from her phone. "You should take a vacation, Di. Cody and I are thinking about Costa Rica in March. March is when my CFA registration deadline falls. The one I've been saving for. The one that keeps getting deferred because of transmission repairs and roof emergencies and grocery supplements and the quiet, steady drain of being the family ATM for so long that everyone has forgotten it was ever a choice I made freely." "How's the car situation?" I ask. I'd told Mom I needed to think about the $4,800. I had been thinking. I had decided no. Brielle's eyes flick to Mom. A half second. The kind of glance shared between two people who've already had a conversation they haven't told you about. "Actually," Mom says, spooning ziti onto Cody's plate first, then Brielle's. "Since you couldn't help with the repair, Brielle found something better. A newer model. Better value, honestly. The old one was a money pit anyway. A newer model. Because I said no to one thing, the ask simply changed shape. It always does. 'Diana, honey, we just need help with the down payment. $3,000. Just as a loan. Brielle will pay you back once she's settled.'" Across the table, Brielle doesn't look up from her phone. Good with money. I am good with money because I have never let myself be anything else. Because every time I tried to spend it on myself, the CFA program, the apartment upgrade, the solo trip to Portugal I've been planning for 4 years, something came up. Someone needed something, and I was the responsible one. So I gave it away and went back to being careful. I don't answer. I eat my ziti. The table continues around me. The ease with which Cody reaches for the garlic bread, the way Mom laughs at something he says, the way Brielle tilts her head onto his shoulder. They are all comfortable here. This is their place of rest. For me, this table has always been a place of asking. I drive home in the dark, doing the math in my head. $3,000. The CFA exam fee pushed back again. Another 6 months added to the wait. I sit in my parked car outside my apartment for 11 minutes. I don't cry. I'm past that. I open my banking app. I look at the number. Then I close it. I go inside. I make tea. I open my laptop. And for the first time in 7 years, I don't open a work document. I open a job board instead. It arrives on a Tuesday, 3 weeks after my performance review. Subject line, Director Level Restructure, Confidential. It's addressed to Marcus and Richard. I'm CC'd. By accident, clearly. Someone's autocomplete pulling my name from a thread where I'd been included weeks earlier. The email is from Patricia Vance, the COO. I read it once, then again, then a third time, very slowly. The way you read something when your brain refuses to process it on the first pass. The firm is creating a new Director of Strategic Analytics position. The role is built around, and I'm quoting here, the proprietary regional growth framework developed over the past 3 years. The search is already underway. External candidates are being considered. The internal team, per Patricia's note, lacks a candidate with the right executive presence for the role. Executive presence. The framework they're building an entire director-level position around is mine. The role that framework justifies, the role that exists only because of work I did, is being given to someone else. Someone with executive presence. Someone who is not me. My hands are completely still on the keyboard. That surprises me. I thought they would shake. Instead, something shifts in my chest. Something that has been slowly bending for 7 years straightens. I forward the email to my personal account. I save a copy to my external hard drive. I open my documentation folder, 847 files, and I begin building a new one. File 848, Director Position, Evidence Package. I find Trevor at the coffee machine at 4:30 p.m. He's recently promoted. He has a corner office now, not a large one, but a door, which counts for everything on this floor. Hey, Diana. Easy smile. Trevor has always been easy. Trevor, can I ask you something? I keep my voice light. The regional framework, the one Marcus presented to the board. Who do you think originated that approach? He thinks about it, actually thinks to his credit. I mean, Marcus built it out over time, but the base model, wasn't that something you were working on? I remember you showing me the prototype version, must be 3 years back now. November 14th, 3 years ago, I say. I have the original file. Something changes in his expression, not guilt, more like recognition. Diana, what are you going to do with that? I don't know yet, I say, and I pour my coffee and walk back to Mission Control. But I do know. I've known since the email. I'm just giving myself the space to be certain before I move. The call comes on a Thursday evening. Not Mom this time. My Aunt Carol, her older sister who lives in Phoenix and who has always been the one family member who tells me things straight. Diana, I'm calling because I love you and I think you deserve to know something. Aunt Carol, in her 68 years on this earth, has never opened a sentence that way, unless it ended badly. Your mother applied for a credit card in your name. About 2 months ago. I found out because Brielle's friend Janelle works at the bank. She mentioned it to her cousin who told me. I don't know if anything was charged to it, but I thought you should look. I sit very still on my apartment floor for a long time after I hang up. Then I log into my credit monitoring app, the one I set up 3 years ago after a coworker mentioned it offhand, and I filed it away as one of those things responsible people do. One new account, opened 8 weeks ago, a store card, a balance of $2,344, charges at a home goods store, a clothing retailer, a restaurant in a beach town I've never visited, the beach town from Brielle's Instagram, the Labor Day trip, the vacation I wasn't invited to, that I paid for, without knowing it, without being asked. I close the app. I open the contacts in my phone. I find the name Keisha gave me months ago, the financial attorney I'd never called, the number I'd saved just in case has arrived. She picks up on the second ring. Her name is Angela Park. Her voice is calm and exact. I need to report identity theft, I say, and I need to know my options. When did you find out? She asks. About 40 minutes ago. A pause. But I think it's been happening for longer than that. I just didn't have proof until now. Start from the beginning, Angela says. So I do. I spend the next 9 days building 2 parallel cases. The first, professional. Every work product I've created at Crestline Capital Group that has been used, presented, or published under another name. I have 847 files, and I sort them methodically. The Regional Growth Framework, version 1.0 through version 4.2. The competitive landscape briefs sent to 3 Fortune 500 clients. The algorithmic model that reduced portfolio volatility by 12% in Q3 2 years ago and earned Marcus a performance bonus he mentioned at the company holiday party. The internal training curriculum I wrote for junior analyst onboarding, which HR adapted into a formal course without my knowledge or credit. The second case, personal. With Angela's guidance, I pull my full credit report. 3 accounts I didn't open. A car loan application in my name, denied, thankfully, but attempted. $17,000 in cumulative charges over 22 months. Not just the store card. Older ones, more carefully hidden, charges so small and so spaced apart that I'd never questioned them when they appeared at the edge of statements I reviewed too quickly, too tired, too trusting to look closely. I sit at my kitchen table at midnight with all of it spread in front of me, printed, organized, numbered. The evidence of 2 separate lives I've been funding without consent. One at work, where my ideas built someone else's career. One at home, where my credit built someone else's comfort. I pour a glass of water. I don't feel rage. I feel something colder and more useful. Clarity. I open a new document. I title it, What I Am Owed. Not bitterness. Not a grievance list. A professional accounting. Every project, every credit, every dollar. Because I have always been good with numbers, and numbers don't lie. Angela Park's office is on the 22nd floor of a building downtown. She is small, precise, and speaks in complete sentences that leave no room for misunderstanding. I like her immediately. We spend 2 hours going through everything. She doesn't gasp. She doesn't say, "Oh, honey." She takes notes with a mechanical pencil and asks exact questions. "The identity theft is clear and immediately actionable," she says. "The professional attribution issue is more nuanced. Employment contracts generally assign intellectual property to the employer, not the employee." But, she taps her notepad, "if Marcus Webb misrepresented your work as his own informal performance evaluations that directly determined your compensation and promotion eligibility, that may constitute fraudulent misrepresentation. Do you have all 7 years of reviews?" "All 7 years," I say. I hand her the folder. She opens it, reads, turns pages without expression. When she looks up, there is something in her eyes that I recognize, the look of someone who has seen this before and is tired of seeing it. "The gap between your documented contributions and your compensation history is significant," she says quietly. "Let me make some calls." Before I leave, I ask her the question I've been carrying since Thursday. Am I a bad daughter? She sets down her pencil, looks at me directly. "You are a daughter who was exploited by someone who loved you and counted on that love to keep you from looking too closely. That is not a character flaw. That is what manipulation looks like inside a family." I take a breath. "Okay, one more thing before you go." She slides one of my documents back across the desk. "Freeze your credit today, all 3 bureaus, before you leave this building." I freeze my credit on the elevator going down. I return to work. I do my job. I do it well because I don't know how to do it any other way. But something has changed in how I carry it. Lighter somehow, because I've stopped investing in a future here. I've stopped hoping Marcus will come through. I've stopped believing that patience is the same as progress. Over those same 9 days, quietly, I have been doing something else. I have been talking to Keisha, my college roommate, the sharpest person I have ever known, the woman who has been running her own boutique analytics consultancy in Chicago for 3 years and who has been asking me, genuinely, consistently, without pressure, to come work with her. I have said no 3 times, because leaving felt like giving up on something I'd invested too much to walk away from. I understand now that I wasn't protecting my investment. I was protecting my captor's comfort. The answer is yes, I tell Keisha on a Tuesday at lunch, eating a sandwich at my desk with my door closed, the door of the small conference room I've claimed as temporary space during a week when Marcus is traveling, if the offer is still open. Silence on the line. Then, "Diana, the offer has always been open. I just didn't want to push." I know. My voice catches. "Just once. I'm ready now." We talk for 40 minutes. The salary she names is 60% higher than what I make at Crestline. Full equity. My name on the methodology. My name on every client brief. My name on everything I build. My name. I haven't heard it said that way in so long I've almost forgotten what it sounds like. Mom calls on a Friday. I pick up. "Diana, I heard from someone at the bank. There's a freeze on your credit. Is everything all right? I have rehearsed this." Angela coached me. Keep it factual. Keep it brief. No emotional escalation. Give them nothing to work with later. "There were accounts opened in my name that I didn't authorize," I say. "I'm handling it." Silence. Longer than usual. Then, "Diana, I can explain. You don't need to." My voice is the calmest it has ever been in my adult life. I have documentation. An attorney is handling the legal side. I wanted you to hear it from me before the formal process begins, because that's the kind of daughter I am. But I need you to understand, this is not negotiable. There will be no more accounts in my name. There will be no more emergency loans. What you did was not a mistake. It was a choice, and it has consequences. I was going to pay it back. That's what Brielle always says too. A long pause. "I love you, Mom. I have spent my entire adult life proving that love in dollars and late nights and silent sacrifice. But love isn't a blank check, and I'm not going to keep paying for a version of family that only functions if I never stop giving. She begins to cry. The performance-perfect tears I know by sound. The ones that have worked on me for 34 years. They don't work today. My attorney will be in touch, I say. I hope we can resolve this without it becoming worse than it needs to be. I genuinely do. A pause. Goodbye, Mom. I hang up. I sit in my apartment for a long time. Then I make tea. Then I open my laptop and finish my resignation letter. I submit the resignation on a Monday morning. I email it to HR first, then Marcus, then Patricia Vance. Professional, precise, 2 weeks notice, no elaboration. Marcus calls within the hour. Diana, I'm blindsided. Can we talk about this? I think we've had all the conversations we needed to have, I say. If this is about the promotion, it's about several things. I pause. My attorney has been in contact with HR regarding the attribution of work product developed during my tenure here. I wanted you to hear that from me directly. A different kind of silence this time, the silence of a man recalculating. I don't think that's necessary, he says carefully. I think it is, I say. Have a good week, Marcus. I end the call. Trevor appears at the entrance to my cubicle 10 minutes later. He leans against the fabric wall and looks at me for a long moment. You're really doing it, he says. I'm really doing it. He nods slowly. For what it's worth, I'm going to HR too, to confirm what I told you, about the framework, about the origin. I look at him. You don't have to do that. I know. He shrugs. But I should have said something a long time ago. This is late, but it's something. It is something. I nod. Thank you, Trevor. He leaves. I turn back to my screen. I have 2 weeks to transfer my knowledge, close my projects, and leave this place exactly as I found it. Better, actually, the way I always do. And then I am done. The meeting with Crestline's legal team happens on a Wednesday afternoon in Angela's conference room. I sit on one side of the table. They sit on the other. 2 attorneys in expensive suits and an HR director named Karen who has never looked me directly in the eye in 7 years. Angela presents the documentation, all 847 files, organized into a timeline that maps my contributions directly to client contracts, board presentations, and internal promotions that benefited from my work. Trevor's written statement is included. 3 former Crestline employees who had witnessed the attribution patterns have provided corroborating context. It takes 4 hours. At the end, the lead attorney confers quietly with his colleague, then turns back to us. What does your client want? Angela glances at me. I give the answer we prepared. Formal attribution on all published materials that derived from my work. Retroactive compensation for the discrepancy between my contributions and my compensation history. And a letter of record acknowledging the oversight. I pause. I'm not interested in destroying anyone. I'm interested in accuracy. They negotiate for 20 minutes. When they leave, Angela turns to me. They'll come back with a number tomorrow, she says. It will be less than what you deserve and more than they want to give. We counter. That's how this works. They come back the next morning. Their opening offer is $62,000. $62,000 for 7 years. For a framework that is now the foundation of an entire director-level division, for 312 hours on this quarter alone. I look at Angela. She is already writing on her notepad. We counter at $215,000, she says, not looking up, plus the attribution and the letter. They settle at $148,000. Formal attribution on 6 published materials and a letter of record signed by Patricia Vance herself. It is not everything. 7 years of work is worth more than $148,000 in ways no legal settlement can quantify. But it is documented, it is signed, it is real, it is mine. Angela shakes my hand with both of hers when we leave the building. That means something coming from her. You're very good at this, you know. I've had practice, I say, being accurate about what I'm owed. Aunt Carol calls the week after the settlement. She is crying. which she almost never does. I told your mother she needed to fix this herself, she says. I told her years ago. Diana, I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner. I saw it happening and I told myself it was family business. I kept quiet and I shouldn't have. You called me when it mattered, I say. Not soon enough. No, I admit. But you called. That's more than most people do. We talk for an hour. She tells me things I hadn't known, patterns going back further than I'd realized. The way my grandmother used to lean on my mother the same way. How money and love got tangled together so early in this family that none of them ever learned to keep them separate. How she watched me grow up being quietly shaped for a role I never chose. You're the first one who's stopping it, she says. In 3 generations. You're the first one who's stopping it. The first one. That lands somewhere deep in me. It's harder than I thought, I admit. Not legally. The guilt. The feeling that I'm doing something wrong by protecting myself. That feeling, she says quietly, is the last thing they installed. The last lock on the door. The one that makes you believe you're the problem for wanting to leave. I sit with that long after we hang up. The last lock on the door. I take the key. The apartment Keisha helped me find is on the 6th floor of a building in Lincoln Park. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A small balcony with a view of the lake on clear days. More space than my Hartford place. Less rent somehow. The math of a city I hadn't considered before. I move in on a Saturday in April, with a rented van and 2 friends who insist on carrying the heavy boxes, and who refuse to let me buy them dinner afterward, buying it for me instead. My master's diploma goes up first. The one I earned in 4 years of night school while working full days at Crestline. The one that sat in a box under my bed in Hartford because I kept meaning to frame it and never quite found the moment that felt worthy of it. I find that moment now. It goes on the wall above my desk where I will see it every day. Below it, I hang something new, printed at a copy shop, framed cheaply, but centered and level. It is the title page of the Regional Growth Framework, my original version, my name at the top, the date in the corner, November 14th, not as a monument to what was stolen, as a reminder of what was always mine, as proof that the work was real, that I was real, even when no one in the room was saying my name. I make coffee. I stand on my balcony. The lake is silver in the morning light. For the first time in years, my coffee is still hot when I drink it. The office is on the 3rd floor of a renovated brick building in the West Loop. 8 people, no cubicles. An open floor plan with standing desks and a wall of whiteboards covered in strategy maps and color-coded project timelines. Keisha stands at the door when I arrive. She hugs me before I can say anything. Welcome to the team, she says. For real this time. My desk has a nameplate. Diana Reeves, Director of Analytics. I stare at it for a moment longer than is probably professional. Too much? Keisha asks. No, I say. It's exactly right. The first meeting of the day is a client brief. A mid-sized regional bank looking to expand into 3 new markets. I listen. I ask questions. I sketch a preliminary framework on the whiteboard in 40 minutes that makes the junior analyst sitting next to me quietly say, "Oh, wow," under his breath. Keisha catches my eye across the room. She is smiling. At the end of the meeting, the client's representative turns to me directly. "This is impressive thinking, Ms. Reeves. Do you have a card?" I hand him a card. My name, my title, my work. All 3, for the first time in my career, in the same place. The identity theft case settles 4 months after I moved to Chicago. Angela negotiates a repayment agreement with my mother. Structured, documented, legally binding. The amount is not everything, but it is acknowledgement. It is a record. It is the line between what happened and what happens next. Brielle never calls. I wait 3 weeks, then I stop waiting. Some doors close from the other side, and the kindest thing you can do is let them. Mom calls me the night after the agreement is signed. I let it ring 3 times, then answer. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she says. She sounds smaller than I remember. Older. I'm not calling to ask for that. I just wanted to say, I know what I did. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd fix it before you noticed. That's what I always told myself, that I'd fix it. "I know," I say. You deserved better than what I gave you." Her voice breaks, not the practiced break, the real one, rougher and less controlled. "You worked so hard, you gave so much, and I took advantage of it because I could, and I told myself it was fine because you were strong." A long pause. "I made you strong and then I punished you for it. I sit with that for a long time. I'm not closing the door," I finally say. "But I need you to understand. It's a different door now. New terms. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be honest. No emergencies that aren't emergencies. No loans. No accounts in my name. Just you and me, talking, like people who actually know each other." "Okay," she whispers. "I don't know what that looks like yet," I say. "Neither do you. But if you want to figure it out, I'm willing to try." We talk for another 30 minutes. It is halting, careful, unfamiliar, like learning a language we should have been speaking all along. It is also the most honest conversation I have ever had with my mother. I hang up and sit quietly in my apartment. Outside, Chicago hums in the dark. I pass the Chartered Financial Analyst exam on a Tuesday morning in October. The result comes in an email at 9:47 a.m. I am at my desk. I open it without ceremony. I've learned not to attach my sense of self to outcomes that haven't happened yet. Pass. I read it twice. Then I sit very still for a moment, just holding the word. Then I walk to Keisha's office, knock twice, and open the door. She looks up from her laptop, reads my face, stands up, comes around the desk. She hugs me and says, "I knew it. I always knew it." I hug her back and don't say anything because I don't need to. That afternoon, Keisha gathers the whole team. 8 people crowded into the conference room that smells like dry erase markers and the good coffee from the shop downstairs. She tells them what I accomplished. They applaud. Small, genuine, the kind that comes from people who actually understand what the work behind a credential costs. Later, I update my LinkedIn. Diana Reeves, CFA, Director of Analytics. Within 48 hours, something unexpected happens. Richard Holt from Crestline sends me a connection request. I decline it without hesitation. Then I open a new browser tab. I book the Portugal trip I've been planning for 4 years, solo, 2 weeks, non-refundable, the first truly selfish act of my adult life. It feels like breathing. 6 months later, I am invited to speak at the Midwest Women in Finance Leadership Conference. The organizer, Dr. Priya Nair, reaches out through LinkedIn. "We have heard about your work and your story, and we believe both deserve a wider audience." I almost say no. Old reflex. I say yes instead. The room holds 400 women, analysts, executives, consultants, students, women in the middle of careers that look like mine looked, accomplished on paper, invisible in practice. Women who give everything and are thanked with nothing. Women who have been told in 100 different ways that ambition is acceptable as long as it stays quiet and makes other people look good and never requires a name. I stand at the podium and look out at them for a long moment before I speak. "My name is Diana Reeves," I say, "and I spent 7 years building things that lived under other people's names. I'd like to tell you how I stopped." The room is completely still. I tell them everything. The framework, the performance reviews, the accidental email, the 847 files, Angela, the resignation, the settlement, all $148,000 of it, Chicago, the CFA, the repayment agreement, and the halting phone call with my mother. I tell them about the cold coffee and the clearance blazer and the job board I opened instead of a work document for the first time in 7 years. I tell them about the sparrow on the park bench. Patient, methodical, not asking anyone's permission. I tell them about the feeling of seeing my name on a door. When I finish, I look out at the room. Dozens of women are crying. Not the defeated kind, the recognized kind. The kind that comes when someone finally says the thing you've been carrying alone and you realize, I am not crazy, I am not too sensitive, I am not asking for too much. I am just the first person in my own life to say so out loud. The applause builds slowly and then becomes something enormous. Dr. Nair finds me afterward. "We're doing this again in the spring," she says. "Will you come back?" "Yes," I say, and mean it completely. Her name is Zoe, She's 26. She emails me 6 weeks after the conference, found me through LinkedIn, saw the speech, wanted to ask one question. Her question: how do you know when it's time to stop waiting and start acting? I think about it for 3 days before answering. Then I write back. When the waiting stops feeling like patience and starts feeling like permission. Permission for someone else to keep taking. When you catch yourself building evidence instead of building hope. When you finally understand that loyalty to a place or a person that doesn't honor your work is not a virtue, it's a habit, and habits can be broken. She responds within the hour. Can we talk? We talk for 2 hours on a Tuesday evening. She is brilliant, methodical, undervalued, and terrified. I recognize every single part of her. Her situation is different from mine in the details, but identical in the architecture. A hedge fund in Manhattan, a supervisor who calls her ideas the team's direction in client meetings, a performance review 3 months overdue, a documentation habit she's never been able to justify starting because she told herself, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm being difficult, maybe if I just keep doing good work, it will eventually be enough. It won't be enough, I tell her, not unkindly, just as fact, not because your work isn't excellent, but because the system you're in isn't designed to reward excellence, it can take for free. Silence on the line. Start a documentation folder tonight, I say. Name it something boring so nobody asks about it. Date stamp everything. Version control everything. Back it up in 3 places. You are not being paranoid. You are being accurate. By the end of our call, she has a plan, a documentation strategy, Angela's number, the name of a recruiter who works specifically with women in finance who are ready to leave situations that have been quietly using them. How do you know all this? She asks. I learned it the hard way, I say. You don't have to. We stay in touch. Monthly calls, then weekly. I watch her find her footing in real time. The first time she pushes back in a meeting and the room doesn't end. The first time she says my analysis instead of the team's analysis and nobody corrects her. The first time she walks into her own performance review with 14 pages of documentation and a number in mind. 8 months after our first call, Zoe gives notice. She calls me from the lobby of her office building, voice shaking, the kind of shaking that isn't fear. It's the body's response to having done something it wasn't sure it could do. I did it, she says. I actually did it. I know, I say. I never doubted it. 6 weeks later, Zoe sends me a photo. She is standing in front of a new office building, a wide grin on her face, a nameplate visible just over her shoulder. Her name, her title, her work. I print it out and pin it next to my original framework on the wall above my desk. And for the first time, looking at that wall, the diploma, the framework, the photo, I understand something I couldn't have understood from inside the pain of it. The point was never the settlement. It was never the CFA or the title or the conference or the applause. The point was always this, that the work belongs to the person who built it, that the name belongs on the door, that the next person who feels what I felt finds someone who has already done what they are about to do, that they do not have to start alone. I hear through professional channels, 9 months after I leave, that the director of strategic analytics position at Crestline Capital Group was filled by an external hire named Jonathan Marsh, who lasted 11 months before leaving abruptly, what industry contacts describe as a methodology dispute with senior leadership. The role was posted again, then again. I learned this from Trevor, who has kept in occasional touch. He left Crestline 4 months after I did. He sends me a short message. They keep trying to rebuild the framework. Nobody can figure out how it actually worked. A pause in the thread. Then, because you never wrote down the thinking behind it, just the outputs. I know, I write back. Did you do that on purpose? I smile at my screen. I documented everything, I say, except the parts that were only mine. Those I kept. Those went with me. Those belong to whatever I build next. It is a Tuesday morning in November, 14 months since I left Hartford. The lake outside my window is steel gray and beautiful. I have learned to love this city the way you learn to love something you chose, with a particular, earned affection that things you were born into rarely carry. My desk holds a mug of hot coffee, still hot, always hot now, because I have time to drink it. The framed framework, the photo of Zoe, a new project file for a client Keisha and I are taking on together. The biggest one we've landed yet, a regional expansion analysis that will take 6 months and carry both our names on the cover page. My phone holds a text from Aunt Carol asking if I'm coming for Thanksgiving. I am. A calendar reminder for my next session with Dr. Okafor, the therapist who is helping me understand why the last lock on the door took 34 years to find. A voicemail from Mom, the 3rd this month, all of them short. All of them just checking in, none of them asking for a single thing. Progress is not a straight line. It is not a clean break. It is not the moment you walk out the door or freeze your credit or resign or file the paperwork or book the Portugal trip. It is every day after those moments. The ordinary Tuesdays. The coffee still hot at 8 a.m., the name on the door. The work that carries your signature into rooms you actually want to be in. I open the new project file. I write my name at the top. Diana Reeves, CFA, Director of Analytics, author. I start typing. If I could go back to that 5:47 a.m., cold coffee, the city still dark, hunched over a laptop building someone else's presentation for the 43rd time, I wouldn't say leave sooner. I wouldn't say trust yourself earlier. I wouldn't say you were being used, as if she couldn't already sense it in the weight of her own exhaustion. I would say, document everything, not because the documentation wins the legal case, though it does, not because the evidence justifies your anger. Your anger needs no justification, not because you need proof to leave. Document everything because when you finally look at it all spread across a kitchen table at midnight, all those files, all those dates, all those hours, all those dollars, you will finally see the full picture of what you gave. And you will finally understand that a person who gives that much deserves to be surrounded by people who can look at it and say, I see you. I see what this cost. I see what you built. Not everyone in your life will be able to say that. Some people are too comfortable in the system that requires your sacrifice to ever acknowledge the sacrifice. And when you understand that, really understand it, not as a wound but as information, you will know exactly what to do. Build your evidence. Find your Angela. Call your Keisha. Listen to your Aunt Carol. Book the Portugal trip. And when you're ready, when you've stopped mistaking endurance for virtue, open the job board. Freeze your credit. Write the letter. Put your name at the top of everything you build. Because you were always the architect. It was always your name that belonged on the door. The only question that was ever left was whether you believed it enough to put it there yourself. I do now. I documented everything, except the parts that were only mine. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you, not just for watching, but for staying. Because I know this kind of story isn't easy to sit with. It asks you to look at things most of us spend a long time trying not to see. The people who use the word family as a reason to take. The workplaces that accept everything you give and call it team spirit. The quiet ways we let ourselves disappear because somewhere along the way we were told that needing things was the same as being difficult. If any part of Diana's story felt familiar, I want you to know something. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining it. You are not selfish for wanting your name on the things you built. You are just the first person in your own life who is ready to say so out loud, and that is everything. Now, I have a small ask. If this story moved you, if it made you feel seen, or angry, or understood, or just a little bit braver than you were an hour ago, please hit the like button right now. It costs you nothing, but it tells the world that stories like this one deserve to be heard. And if you know someone who is sitting in their own version of that cubicle right now, doing twice the work for half the credit, giving more than they have, waiting for a moment that keeps not coming, share this video with them. Don't write a long message. Just send it. Sometimes the most important thing one person can do for another is say, I see you. Here is proof you are not alone. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one. Every week, this channel is a place for the women who fix things quietly, who show up when no one is watching, who are tired of waiting for permission to take up the space they've already earned. This channel is Mission Control. And you belong here. I'll see you in the next one.